In our All Age services this summer, we will be looking at characters from the book of Judges. This week, we are focusing on Ehud, the left-handed assassin. You can read his story in Judges 3, verses 6 to 30. About 3,000 years ago, the people of Israel lived in the promised land God had given them. Even though only a couple of generations had passed since Moses and Joshua, the people had already forgotten the commandments God had given them through Moses. The first of those commandments told Israelites to worship only God, and the second told them not to make any idols. The Israelites were now worshipping the Baals, the gods of the people among whom they lived, and prostrating themselves before their idols. As the Israelites had been so disobedient, God allowed them to be ruled by a nation called the Moabites, with their very overweight king, Eglon. The Moabites did not treat the Israelites well. They had an army of bullies who made the Israelites hand over their crops and anything else the Israelites wanted. King Eglon also had the help of the armies of the Ammonites and the Amalekites to keep the Jews under his control. King Eglon's armies beat the Israelite army and took the city of Jericho, known as the City of Palms. For 18 long years, King Eglon ruled with a rod of iron and made the Jews pay crushing taxes. The poor Israelites had had enough of his oppressive rule, and some of them called out to God in repentance and asked him to deliver them from the cruel Moabites. God decided to raise up a man to rescue the Israelites, and the man he chose was Ehud, who was left-handed. Ehud set to work making himself a metal sword. It was a double-edged dagger, 18 inches, that's about 50 centimeters long, and he hid it in his clothing, strapped against his right thigh. It was time for the Jews to send the very overweight King Eglon their taxes in crops, money, and possessions. Ehud joined those transporting the taxes to the Moabite king. After delivering the money to King Eglon, he started home again. But outside the city, at the quarries of Gilgal, he sent his companions on and returned alone to the king. "I have a secret message for you," he told King Eglon. The king immediately dismissed all those who were with him so that he could have a private interview with Ehud. King Eglon decided to take Ehud into his cool upstairs room at the palace, where no one could overhear the secret he was about to be told. King Eglon then stood up and eagerly asked, "So, what is this secret?" Ehud reached beneath his robe with his strong left hand, pulled out the double-bladed dagger strapped against his right thigh, and plunged it deep into the king's belly. The hilt of the dagger disappeared beneath the flesh, and the fat closed over it as the entrails oozed out. Leaving the dagger where it was, Ehud locked the doors behind him and escaped across an upstairs porch. He then calmly walked out of the palace, out of the city, and headed towards home. When the king's servants returned and saw that the doors were locked, they waited thinking that perhaps King Eglon was using the bathroom. But when, after a long time, he still didn't come out, they became concerned and got a key. And when they opened the door, they found their master dead on the floor. Meanwhile, Ehud had escaped past the quarries to Sa'ira. When he arrived in the hill country of Ephraim, he blew a trumpet as a call to arms and mustered an army under his own command. The Israelite army began to gather. "Follow me," he told them. "The Lord has put your enemies, the Moabites, at your mercy." Ehud led the army towards Moab. They seized the fords of the Jordan River near Moab, preventing anyone from crossing. Then they attacked the Moabites and killed about 10,000 of the strongest and most skillful of their fighting men. No one escaped. Ehud, the left-handed assassin, with God's help, had led the repentant Israelites to victory. They had their freedom and no more crippling taxes to pay. So Moab was conquered by Israel that day, and the land was at peace for the next 80 years. The lesson God wanted to teach the Israelites was that if they wanted to keep their freedom, they had to trust and obey Him.